happy to be here. Really nice that we have such a large audience that represents all the three pillars that we are talking today about. Nice conversations to have with you. So now I'll try to share my experience with DevOps and what business value it brings to us. A couple of words about myself. So I'm about 15 years in the industry, worked for multiple clients and several companies. The last things I've been doing, I was working in the CTO office, running the big data and analytics group. Last year, mainly focused on the US clients, spending time there. So, like photography, like hiking, doing some mountains hiking, and I normally run half marathons in the places where I go. I haven't had the chance to run a lot in Zurich, but this morning the run was quite nice after the rain. We really enjoyed the city and the river. So yeah, you've seen this in the previous presentations. So there are three parts that make product work, and it's about users, sorry about noise, the business and the technology, and I will try to focus on the technology part. So so Lisa has covered these two parts of the product lifecycle or the product development lifecycle. I'm just focusing on this minute part. Maybe not that minute, but we as the technical people try to make the life of the user experience of the developers and the product side easier and make everything from idea to life easier and make it real. So I'll try to focus on this part. So what are we going to go through today? What is actually Agile DevOps delivery? And not just what does it mean, but how to make it real on your product, on your company, how to enable that. A couple of focus areas will be on continuous delivery and automation. We'll talk about the quality, how to get to the good quality levels and how to measure the quality, and maybe a couple of recommendations what to do next with all the information I'll share. So the first and the main question, what does DevOps mean to you? I hope you've heard that magic word. Any options? What does it mean? A lot of pain. Okay. Any other positive experiences? Okay. So I did the thing that normally people do first thing. I go to Wikipedia and try to think like what really people think about this term. It's most of the time it's positive actually, not that negative. So we try to fix the negative stuff, and it's basically a combination of a cultural philosophies, practices, tools that increase our organizational ability to deliver applications, services at a high velocity, and as a result, make our clients happy and make them evolve and have a fast pace of changes in the organization. I looked further. I looked at the Gartner and Forrester, who kind of market leaders in the opinions, and if you look, they give mostly the same explanation or their own view on the topic. The similarities of that, it's a culture. So you see culture here, and there. So it's not just a set of tools, it's not just a list of items to do. It's a cultural shift and cultural change of the organization to make those two parts, dev and ops, which contain the magic word, work together. Going a little bit into more details, what phases we are seeing or normally having in our product development lifecycle and how DevOps interfere with that or help to do that. So we start here. So we start from the plan. So it's either a business idea or a new feature in the product that we want to make real. So we do a plan. We know that this is certain steps that needs to be done, and we try to create it. So we do it a first try. We hope that it's created well. So we verify. We verify it against the plan. We verify whether we developed actually what business wanted from us. If yes, so we go to pre-production. So we try to simulate the environment that our clients will be using and see if it's working. So then the next step, if everything in this stage goes well, we go and release. So now it falls on the ops part, the other part of the world that some other magic is happening. So they do some configuration. They detect whether the product we are shipping is working and functional. We get a response. And so what's next? We're trying to predict what needs to happen after that. Are we going to do a second iteration of the original idea? Are we going to improve what we have done? We get feedback from the market, and this is the set of things that we're going to do next. So basically, we're adopting our product into the real feedback from the market and the reality that's around us. And again, we start planning again and go doing to create, verify, and pre-production. So this infinite loop, this is basically what Lisa showed you also. We are trying to be in and not just do it like one shot. So yeah, the website is done. We don't do anything else. But this is the life cycle of the product that we want to have. So the gray areas, the monitoring and analysis. So we should have some tool set to help us to monitor and analyze the product we are creating. Because just the user feeling on our assumptions is not enough to make sure that we're doing the right stuff. What's normally missing, or what people are forgetting from time to time, is this dotted line around, and it's about security. Why people missing that, or why people don't think about that? Yeah, we cautious about security. We want to make our product secure, but we do it in a way as, yeah, we ship the product, we invite, I don't know, third-party consultants, do some security testing, say, yeah, good, this is the list of things you need to improve, and we move on. The concept of DevOps saying that security needs to be integrated into your life cycle. So basically, in each step of your creation of the product and verification, you need to think about security. Security of the apps, security of the third-party libraries, security of your user data, and so on. So as a result, sometimes you might see not just DevOps as the culture, but DevSecOps. There are other options that you can put in between Dev and Ops, but DevSecOps concept is also evolving, and maybe sometime in the future we will start calling this cultural thing in 3 words rather than in 2 words. So concept is good, philosophy is good, but how to enable that? How to take your team or your product team or your entire company and enable DevOps culture in it. I try to collect like most important things that help you to enable that, and I'll go one by one. So first, and the most important thing from each part of the product development is the client or your customer. So always when you make decisions, when you take, you implement new stuff, think about your customer and the satisfaction of your end users. The second one might not be applicable for the young, small startups that just sit in one room and it's one team that is developing some cool stuff. But if you are a large company, well developed, it's a common thing that you have silos in the company, especially if you are acquiring another parts. If you're acquiring another companies, and by that you have different cultures inside one company. So basically, you're ending up in multiple companies inside one. So the DevOps will not work properly or will not be real if you have parts of the org that have their own views on the product development, the future of things, and the importance of each part. So removing the silos is an important part in all of that ecosystem. The other thing that we often see that people try to change everything at once. So jumpstart, implement DevOps culture in all of the teams you have, and expect it start working smoothly. And I know in a week or two, everyone is basically changed and behaving completely different. So the recommendation is to start small and to start with either one team or one part of the project. It will be much easier to implement. You will get much faster results, and that success that you will see from that team will be inherited by another partner, by the rest of the company organically, because also they want to be the winners, they want to do new stuff the same way as the other parts that are doing faster releases, that are doing proper beta quality or other important items that you measure. Tools. So you should select tools that are compatible with each other. Again, somewhat correlates with the silos. If you have parts that have their own preferences or doesn't want to use the tools that are common for the rest of the organization, it will cause problems. Integrations not compatible, workflows, or even programming languages might be different. So to make life easier, think about the rest of the group and pick tools that are compatible. Integrate and deliver continuously. So what does it mean and why it's important? So we will talk about that. And constantly improve. So it's again not a one shot, it's a infinite loop, and you constantly need to improve. How to achieve the better results with monitoring and feedback. I'll focus on that on the latest slides. Real-time feedback, real-time visibility of the ecosystem and your product, and automation. Not the last item here, but one of the most important. I think the first four is kind of easy to explain and easy to remember, so I will not spend much time on them, but integrate and deliver continuously. What does it mean? How it's implemented, and why do we need that? This slide might be obvious for some of you, but I still want to take you through the stages, what's happening with the code that is produced by an engineer, and when it goes to production and your end users see. So a short story, a couple of steps. So the code. So you created a new feature, you're happy with it, it's the best thing you did in your life, and you do commit. So you commit to the repository, GitHub, Bitbucket, with your preference versioning system. Most likely you also touch some related code, not just your main branch, but some other stuff in the third parties, or some products that have been in your product line a while, but needs to be adopted to your new great stuff. So what's happened next? Continuous integration starts, or the concept of continuous integration starts. So what does it mean? It's a pipeline, so it's not just an event, it's a pipeline of things that are happening. So the code we committed needs to be built. So depending on what app you are creating, but most likely you have some build process to make your source code usable or runnable. There are unit tests that are most likely created by your engineers. So they had in their mind what the code should be doing, and they already covered it with the unit tests. Yes, there are other unit tests from the other parts of the apps that also be run, and we will make sure whether we broke the other parts of the app or not. Systems most of the time are large. There are multiple parts that are running in parallel, and we need to integrate with them. So the set of integration tests to make sure that we did compatible thing with the rest of the stuff is still working. So our CI, or continuous integration pipeline, is kind of done, but our end users still don't see it. So we know that it's working. We might did a couple of iterations on it, fixed the most obvious stuff, but still it's not in production. So second step, it's a continuous delivery. So what do we do with delivering the code to the end users? So the code is available for some pre-production environment or the test environment, so we have ability to review a business functionality and review the whole idea of the feature we did. Then it goes to other simulation steps like staging, so which will be most likely either a copy of your production or very close to the real-world environment with the data that either is or was on the production very recently. If code goes well, we again expecting the product working well on the staging, so we kind of ready to go to production. So as a result, our end users, our clients, our internal users finally see a new button on the page, or a new page or a mobile app that never existed before. So DevOps with the CI/CD pipeline and CI/CD concept allows you to do these steps automatically and to make sure that from the moment when you press the commit button to production, it takes really short time. And when it goes to production, we make sure that the quality of the production code is as best as we can, and we spend as little time as possible to verify that it's what we expect. Constantly improve. Yeah, we talked about the CI/CD pipeline, but how to make sure that we have an ability to improve either processes, how to make sure that the code we are producing is actually better and better every time we do the commit, how make sure that the teams we are working at are more and more efficient and we have higher velocity. So at Cyclum, you heard earlier that we have about 300 active clients or around that. So we wanted to make sure that the approaches we take to the clients we work with are as automated as possible and as easy to integrate or as easy to adopt as possible. So we come up with the kind of a framework and some tools that help us to ensure that we are improving constantly. So the first step we take is audit. It might be it may be too strong word. People are afraid of audits. People are afraid that someone will come that they don't know and will say that they do everything wrong, and it will be a waste of their very expensive time. So we try to do those audits as less painful as possible and as efficient as possible. So we came up with a set of checklists. Most of the time it gives you yes/no answers, or maybe a little bit deeper to validate whether yes or no is actually what we meant to ask. But as a result of this audit, you get an improvements backlog. So it's a set of features that you can take either to the next sprint or spread it into the next release to improve the standards you're working with. So it's covering the teams we have: dev, ops, user experience, product management, and quality assurance or testing. Yeah, so how do we do that? How do we make sure that it's not just words, that yes, we improved, but we used data from the systems we all use on a daily basis, like Jira, like Jenkins, your repositories like GitLab, and Zabbix as an example of the monitoring. So we collect the data, we collect the logs, and measure those improvements, basically against the technical audit checklists. So we have some dashboards that are either high level for the business, that they can see the business value of the features, or they can be drilled down to a technical side of the things and do some real counters if needed. A couple more words on the checklist. So the areas we are covering at the moment with this technique, obviously, is development. So the way we have our development routine, the way we apply the methodologies in the teams, the way we measure, velocity or code quality. DevOps or ops part is most of the time focused on CI/CD, how fast we're delivering the code to production, and how does we simplify the work for entire ecosystem. The test is split into multiple parts, but automation and manual, of course, but that's also a security and performance testing. On the initial stages of the product, you might not think a lot about performance, but when you get a bigger client basis, when you get larger products, security is also, and performance is important. Processes, agile delivery, how do we deliver large programs, and how do we actually work on the team level, also measured. And business analysis, how do we work with the product part of the organization or the clients we have, they also are measured. So again, it's a checklist that come up with a recommendation. If I talk about numbers, so to validate, so the last audit I did was for a program of about 100 people. So we spent around 2-3 hours per team, and so it gives us, like 3 full days of auditing for a program of 100 people. But if you take on a team level, so it's basically a day maximum just to get those recommendations. So these frameworks allow us or gives us levers to improve constantly, and how we make sure that the results are there. How do we make sure that these improvements are implemented and not forgotten? So how to achieve these results, and especially in the real time, we see that our project is stable, that the environment's up and running, that the users can reach it. So we're using maybe, well, it's just more details on the previous slide. So we built a system, well, a couple of parts of the system that allows us to do data collection. So through the APIs that other products on the market allows us to work with, like Jira, Zabbix, GitLab, Jenkins, or SonarQube for code quality. And so we collect all the data, historical data that allows us to see the trends. So we don't forget how it was in the past and do we have some positive trends or negative. And dashboards are also might be on a high level that allows us to calculate how much money we actually spent on a particular feature, and was it good, how much time we spent for bug fixing, how much bugs we have in the production. As a result, did our uptime suffer? Did the quality of the work we did, it was actually good, and even some bad things happening, recovery time was quite fast, and we were able to roll back quickly to a previous version. Dashboards are quite custom, so we provide a default set of dashboards, but each client can customize it and focus on the areas that's important for him. And automation. So everything what I told so far require a lot of automation. You can't do either monitoring, you can't do testing manually to enable these orange items. So automate things, automate everything that is possible. So everything is a code. Continuous everything, continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing, and continuous improvement is the key to your DevOps culture. Again, how to make sure that we are on the same page. The biggest problem we are facing with these complex changes is that different cultures understand different things differently, and especially for the organizations that grow fast or that are global organizations, you just need to make sure that all of the parts are on the same page and treating the same things similarly. So we normally coming up with a set of training materials, collateral materials, webinars, especially on newcomers. So for large growing organizations, so we prepare a lot of materials like startup guides for developers, demos on the existing products that you can offload to the newcomers, say like this is 2 or 3 days of your time to be spent learning basic stuff, but also looking how do we use the product, how it was evolving, what's important at the moment, what our customers think about that. But also a verification. So platforms like Litmus allows you to create on one hand presentations with the material, but then check whether people actually went through it and answered the questions. So some quizzes or multiple selection tools allows you to validate whether the engineers or whether your users actually went through it. And collateral materials and case studies obviously needs to be there. What happens if you do it separately? If you iterate different parts of the organization iterate differently and your cultures are not aligned? Not my problem. This term, I don't know, it occurred in our DevOps team, but they call it that cat syndrome. So basically you have a problem and you try to offload it as fast as possible to the other side. So you just throw it over the fence and you think that, okay, now I don't see it, it doesn't exist. But these problems keep occurring and showing up from the other side of the fence. So basically Dev and Ops parts are trying to make that problem not mine. And it leads to the blame game. So the people are blaming the other part. So developers say, on my test environment, everything goes well. So now it's an ops problem to make it working on the production environment, and vice versa. The ops part receive the code that is not deployable, and they say, well, we can't go to production, throw it back to the developers, fix it. So basically, DevOps trying to streamline the dead cats as fast as possible to drop the cat on the other side of the fence. And they're all misunderstanding. Evolution of DevOps somehow happened from the IT. So basically, multiple years ago, we had an IT department somewhere in the basement fixing stuff. And now we think that DevOps guys are the guys who know some Docker or Jenkins, and they sit somewhere in the corner and fix it or implement it. Or we don't need developers, we don't need DevOps in function. Our engineers are fine doing that themselves, and they much better know how to do production environments rather than some other org. Call DevOps when everything falls apart. And DevOps are the function that comfort the developers. It's much easier for them to live in this nice environment. But that leads to role misunderstanding, and again, it's a cultural thing that you need to make a shift out of it. We did an analysis of the clients we have at the moment, and just to confirm that the theories we had previously are actually there. So if you look at this infinite loop, which is almost the same as you saw originally, but the plan part, the creation part, and the verification that it's against the plan, most of the clients do. So yes, they know how to spend money, they understand that this is what they want. But then the gray sides saying that if it comes to packaging and releasing, so a lot of them doing it manually, or don't do any packaging, just copying the code to the production environment and hope it will work. Yes, they do configuration, so they're configuring the setups. You need to do that, your production will not work. Monitoring is also kind of semi-manual. Yes, we get alerts from the system that everything falls apart, but we don't monitor the good things. We don't know how our users are using the product, so monitoring is not there. And I put security separately. I think I mentioned that previously. So yeah, we do security audits. We sometimes remember about the security problems, so we read it on the internet that some modules or operating system have some critical bugs, and yes, we do update that. But it's not constant. It's not integrated in the life cycle. Maybe a couple of case studies. Just when I was doing the analysis of the client base and for the previous slide, so I decided to choose a couple of recent examples that we have when we got the client with some existing products that are growing, starting work with us, and what do we gain from them and how do we try to fix that. So the statement, like what was the client? It's one of the large retailers that work with us. They come to us with several systems, been built in the past or been integrated from some other by other vendors. So it was some Magento web shop. It was an ERP system that they implemented. They had multiple databases using not just different databases but different vendors for their databases. They had really long automated tests runs, so they try to automate as much as possible in the past, but it takes them about 16 hours to test the entire flow. And the release schedule was kind of messy because of the previous parts, so they were not sure that the data is correct, that the systems are integrated somehow, and the tests are run properly. So the solution that we did, or the steps we took to make it easier for all of us to make faster releases and get new functionality to the client faster. So multiple databases problem was solved by SQL Facade, or a system that allows us to have the data consistent between all of the parts. Jenkins pipeline was built, and we got a CI/CD flow for the functionality. And on the tests, so the solution was quite simple. We understood that the test that they had was quite important. but parallelization of the tests and using multiple environments that can do tests in parallel will speed up things a lot. So we ended up in about 30 minutes to run all the tests, and as a result, your measuring of the quality was much faster. You don't need to wait almost 2 days to get some results, but half an hour is not that bad. Of course, ideally you want to have like 5 minutes, but if the systems are large, it's not that possible. The second example, it's a company that is doing software for the hospitals and for the doctors. So the software is used in multiple hospitals and well, a large client base. So what we saw from the beginning is that they've been growing fast and they had a lot of legacy code and a lot of manual work being done before every release. A lot of infrastructure work being done manually. Again, if you have a large client base, most likely they have their own infrastructures, or you need integrations between all of them. Even you are in the cloud, so the infrastructure work is also important. And it was quite hard for developers when you have such a complex infrastructure for them to maintain everything and make sure that they don't forget to do changes in multiple environments is also the key. So first step that been taken, 100% infrastructure as a code, not connected to the particular setup. Continuous deployment approach, so that the code between this commit button and then releasing to the public was not instant but very fast and doesn't require manual steps. Of course, we need to make sure that it's not just going fast through the pipeline, but necessary checks are done. But we also enabled that approach. So as a result, it was much easier to release. There was no frustration to hit that release button or to make new feature public. And we also knew that if something goes wrong, if we forgot about something, we can easily roll back to the previous stage. So what to do next? I gave you a lot of information. Some of that is theory or cultural thing. You need to think about that and live with it. But a couple of small starting things. If you like the DevOps concept or you want to implement that, take one of your small projects, one team, or whatever you like as a small start, and try to implement the practices and do the changes. And you will be amazed how much faster that team will work, and people from the other parts will start talking about that and will try to implement the same in their own teams. And if you already have a product which is large and you're already facing the problem with the silos, so try to find them and try to remove them. It's easy to say, try to remove them, but it's communication, it's work between dev and ops, or it's work between one part of the product and another part of the product, but it really helps you to streamline your product development.